Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2018 INSA Achievement Awards. I'm Chuck Alsop, and we're glad to have you here tonight. We're also really glad to have some extraordinary young folks that are going to be honored here tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Before we get started, I'm not going to acknowledge senior leaders in the room. Because if I did, I'd forget somebody, and I don't want to do that. But we have several senior leaders from the IC, and I just want to say that we couldn't do these sorts of things that INSA does without your support, so thank you. I'm going to renege on something I just said. I'm going to recognize one senior leader that's here before I get to Sue later. But the one senior leader I did want to acknowledge is Bob Ashley, the director of DIA, General Ashley. But I'm doing that because we're going to let Bob off the hook tonight in terms of any sort of responsibility to say anything. He's here to support a DIA employee that's being honored. But he is going to be with us in a couple of weeks at a leadership dinner. And if you want to hear from Bob Ashley, come see us on March 8th, and we'll hear where we're going with DIA. So, Bob, thanks for being here tonight. So, the INSA has a lot of councils that we focus on policy events, but we've kind of got one unusual council that we call the Intelligence Champions Council. And the whole purpose of the Intelligence Champions Council is to kind of focus on mentorship, inspiring young folks to seek careers in the IC, and they have done a great job of mentoring events. We'll do speed mentoring here soon. We do happy hours with young folks in the area and so forth, and they're very active. And I just want to acknowledge, and you're going to see her here introducing somebody in a minute too, but Jill Bruning from AECOM, who's the chair of our ICC, and Mike Bruni from KEYW, who's our vice chair. So Jill, Mike, thanks very much. Okay, so at this point, my little script, and you're going to see us all messing with script here tonight, but my script says, "It is now my pleasure to introduce INSA Chairman Tish Long." But you probably haven't seen Tish tonight, have you? And unfortunately, Tish came by my office yesterday. We were supposed to do an office call with somebody, and she said, "I don't feel very well." And she said, "I think I'm going to go home. You're on your own, Chuck." And she tried real hard today, but she finally said, "I got to go to see a doctor," and she got diagnosed with the flu. So she thought it was better, since she's contagious right now, not to share that with us, okay? So you're stuck with me for a little while longer here, okay? So, and Tish would say, "Thank you, Chuck." Okay. Okay. So tonight, and I would tell you that Tish would say that she is greatly disappointed not to be doing this because, and I think you'll hear it from many other people here, INSA does a lot of events during the year. You know, we do policy events, we do social events, leadership dinners, Baker dinner, all that sort of stuff. But several people here that do a lot of these things will tell you honestly that this is their favorite event of the year. This is the feel-good event. This is where we get to celebrate the young folks that are going to be the leaders of our community in the future. And that she feels very strongly about that. She feels like this is the best event we do. So she's really, really sad not to be here. But that said, tonight we're going to recognize 7 people. There's only 6 awards, right? But we're going to recognize 7 because we actually had a tie this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But these are 7 individuals from academia, industry, government, and the military who've made outstanding early contributions to U.S. intelligence and national security. They exemplify leadership, professionalism, mentorship, and commitment to excellence. We can't wait to hear from them because, as I said before, every one of them's got a really interesting life story. Our recipients work long hours, often far from home. This commitment to excellence demands a lot of their families too. We've got a lot of family members here tonight, and thank you for joining us. But I'd like to offer a special welcome to you, the family members of our recipients. We recognize your support and sacrifice tonight as well. We appreciate everything you do to support your loved ones' dedication to the mission. Please join me in a round of applause for the recipient's family and friends. But I'm not going to introduce Sue now. Somebody else is going to do that for us. But I do want to say welcome to our keynote speaker, Sue Gordon, the Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, the PDDNI. Some of us refer to that as the P. Diddy, right? Okay. But you really like that. So thank you, Sue, for your continued support. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your continued support of INSA and for being here tonight. We look forward to your remarks. As many of you know, Sue's predecessor as the PDDNI was Stephanie O'Sullivan. Stephanie was Jim Clapper's steadfast lieutenant for 6 years, leading IC integration efforts and tackling key resource and operational challenges for the community. Prior to ODNI, she was Associate Deputy Director of CIA, where she was leader and the Director of Science and Technology for more than a dozen years. So you could be asking, well, why are you talking about Stephanie, you know? I'm going to let you know tonight, ahead of our official announcement on Friday, that Stephanie O'Sullivan will be the 2018 recipient of the Baker Award. Okay. So we'll be doing the Baker Award on June 8th at the Omni Shoreham Hotel. Mark your calendars. It'll be a fun night. So Stephanie will be joining an elite group, and you know, kind of one of the things we like to do, kind of the challenge to the 7 folks in the front row up here is we refer to these achievement awards as the baby bakers. Okay. Okay, and we're pretty sure that one of these folks that we've recognized in this sort of forum is going to be one of the Baker winners in 20 or 30 years. So you got a challenge in front of you. So Stephanie will be joining an elite group of Baker Award recipients, a number of whom are with us tonight. I want to acknowledge those folks that are here with us tonight. The one and only Charlie Allen, INSA Senior Intelligence Advisor. Welcome, Charlie. My script here says that we are fortunate to have 4 additional. We've got 3. I'm still hopeful that a former boss of mine is going to show up, and we'll talk about that in a second. But we also have with us the Honorable former DDCI for Community Management, Joan Dempsey. We have former DDCI, Dick Kerr. And former NSA Director, former Deputy Director of CIA, Bill Studeman. They're the namesakes for our awards. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your distinguished service and your continued support of our future leaders. And we look forward to hearing from you a little bit later as we introduce each one of our recipients. Let me take a minute to, we can't do this without sponsors. I think you all appreciate that. So who made this first-class evening possible? And I think you all think it's a pretty nice place to have a reception, right? But Vencore, PwC, Raytheon, Microsoft, Penn State Applied Research Lab, CSRA, Spadar and Associates, and INSA's new media partner, CQ Roll Call. So thank you all for your support. And with that, I would like to welcome INSA board member Matt Curtis, President and CEO of Vencore, the premier sponsor of the Achievement Awards, for a few brief remarks and to introduce our keynote, Sue Gordon. Matt, thanks.
You're not contagious, are you, Chuck? Very good. Thank you. Well, welcome. It's great to be here. And I do believe, Chuck, that this is the best event, you know, the Achievement Awards. We at Vencore have had the pleasure of having a winner 2 years ago. We have a winner tonight. Not that that's a commercial, but it's really a great event. So congratulations to all the award winners and certainly the applicants. To be able to have accomplishments to even apply for these awards is phenomenal. To win, well, that's just fantastic. So congratulations to all of you. I've got the pleasure of introducing the keynote speaker. Speaking with Sue a few minutes beforehand, I started talking about ACC basketball, but I thought that was not a good idea. So I won't go there. I won't go there. I know. We'll pay for that later. But anyway, so Sue, as everybody in this room knows, has a phenomenal career in the intelligence community, 27 years at the CIA, senior executive leadership, and at the time, all 4 of the directorates, analysis, operations, science and technology, and support, was one of the main drivers, the establishment of In-Q-Tel, all of which prepared her for her next assignment, which was the deputy director of the NGA, where she really drove the transformation of that organization. I don't think there's an award she hasn't won. I think certainly worthy of mention is a Presidential Rank Award, which she won at the distinguished level, and all the other awards. We're really pleased that she was nominated and subsequently selected to the principal deputy to the director of national intelligence, which adds another title to her distinguished resume, which is the Honorable. So without further ado, Susan M. Gordon, the Honorable Susan M. Gordon, Principal Director, Deputy to the Director of National Intelligence.
Well, thanks, Mac. That was too kind and nice of you not to mention that Carolina beat Duke. Damn it. Wow, just a couple comments. I remember when I was an undergraduate at Duke and had to prepare a presentation on the energetics of locomotion of African gazelles in front of my professor, the world's foremost expert on the energetics of locomotion in African gazelles. That's the way I feel tonight in front of the leaders in this room. Holy smokes, it's the idols of my career. And so just so you all know, we all feel this way about it. I love events like this, and I fight to become a part of them because we get a chance to celebrate our leaders. And most of my remarks are going to be to you. And maybe it'll be interesting to the rest of you as well. And I love celebrating leaders because you carry our hopes and dreams. And gang, these are not casual hopes and dreams. These are serious times where we are facing challenges and a complexity of the world, the likes of which I have never seen. It demands a national security community that can provide clarity, truth, and insight, and this is not an easy world to find clarity, truth, and insight. And tonight's awards, what's so exciting is they demonstrate the breadth of our community and the depth of our mission that stretches across government, academia, private sector, military, and law enforcement. And the nation we need the whole of this community to be focused and determined and passionate and innovative and unrelenting and, yes, human, if we are going to deliver what this moment demands of us. You know, there are other people that can watch the news at night and they can shake their fists at the television wishing that somehow there was more sense to be had or that our policies were better. Not us. Because of the work we've chosen, we know that it is our responsibility to make that news better. By the work that we do, by the quest that we pursue. Now, on other days and in other fora, many of you have heard me talk about things. I love talking about things and capabilities that we need to pursue, but that's not what I'm going to do tonight. Tonight, I'm going to talk exclusively on leadership. And my message, by the end of this is simply going to be that leadership matters. It's why you're here tonight. And because I'm old, and they let people like me talk about wisdom and things in the past and stories, I'm going to offer you all those. But it's all going to boil down to one thing. I'm going to give you the secret of what you need to do in order to ensure that you continue to advance and that you deliver on the promise that Chuck and Mac articulated. You ready? This is important that you listen to this. Just what you're doing. Just every day do it a little better. A little bigger. That's it. That's it. All right, I'm done with my... Okay, maybe that doesn't have quite as much grit as you might use. So I'm going to offer you 3 stories, 2 reflections, and 7 lessons that I hope you can carry on your... Yeah, you wondered how I came up with those numbers. I don't know. I made them up in the car ride over. So here's the deal. 3 stories. The first one was, I was a young analyst. I thought I was okay. I was 24 years old, and I came to the conclusion that my organization wasn't valuing me enough and that they weren't promoting me fast enough, and so I needed to leave. Now, I say that, think about that. 24 years old, I decided because I wasn't promoted in 10 months that it meant that they didn't think I was good enough, and so I needed to go find a new job. Luckily, I had a very wise branch chief, and he said, Sue, you may be right. This may not be the place for you, but I enjoin you to not leave until you've accomplished something, and not leave to get away from something, but to go to something else. And most importantly, I don't want you to ever let the organization think that your performance is dependent on something else. Think about that. Now, I did ultimately leave. I stayed another year, and I've carried that with me for the rest of my life. Don't get so excited about what's ahead that you forget what you have. And don't forget that every moment is one of possibility, and if you move too quickly through this place, you will miss the opportunity to deliver what only that moment will allow. My second story is my greatest failure. Now, I don't think I've told this in as public a setting, and I'm trying to decide if any of my bosses are here at this moment. So here's my second story. I was a GS-10, probably a 26, 27-year-old. I was an engineer. I was actually in the job that I moved to from that last assignment. And my boss gave me $50 million and said, you need to find a new solution to a $3 billion program that we think needs to be done more inexpensively. I know, think about that. Think about handing a GS-10 $50 million to solve this huge solution. And I wasn't smart enough to know that this was too big a job for me. So I trundled off thinking I was doing it. And I was a pretty good program manager at the time, and so I took the classic how do we do a fly-off for new ideas approach. I did the 3 bears approach. I went to a big company, a medium-sized company, a little company, and I gave them all the same task. And I said, let's figure out what we should do. And we spent 6 months, and man, we came up with a brilliant technical solution that was only going to cost $600 million. That's a lot less than $3 billion, unless you're not good at math. And we had also worked all the things that had to go on the system as well. I had a brilliant solution. It was really exciting, except I had one problem, and that was the person who delivered the best solution was the little company. And it was a little company that had never done business with the government. And because I valued myself for being honest, I told the president of the little company, I said, listen, we really love your solution, but unlikely that the government is going to give a company that has never had debt and only had a $1 million contract, $300 million contract. So we're going to have to figure out some pairing option, right? That sounds like a good thing to tell someone, right? Honest, open. I swear it was the next day that these 2 things happened to me in quick succession. I got a phone call from the head of the NRO who said, I don't know who the hell you think you are or what you think you're doing, but this little project of yours is never going to see the light of day. It's neat that the CIA thought that was something that we had to do, but I'm here to tell you the Air Force isn't going to do that thing just because you think so. I have fired the Air Force people that have been working with you. It will never, ever, ever, ever happen. I did not cry. But I was humbled. I'm trying to breathe still, and the next thing happens, I get another call, and it's from the president of the small company. And the president of the small company says, Sue, great news. I sold my company last night, so we can now do that work that was now never, ever, ever, ever going to happen. Imagine that. Because a 26-year-old wasn't smart enough to know two things. One, that it's never the technical details of a project that make it happen. And two, that there's a limit to the honesty that you ought to have with folks. A man sold his life work for something that wasn't ever going to happen. So what do you do next? You go tell your boss. If I leave nothing else good in this conversation, I will tell you when you screw up, you must present yourself for flogging immediately. Good advice. Some people call it not the crime, not the cover-up. I tend to be more optimistic. So I went into my boss, and guess what my boss said? My boss said, I've seen worse. How awesome is that? And I'm going to give you my lessons, but I will tell you that that moment changed everything for me, because I was dedicated for the rest of my life to be so good that I didn't make the kind of mistakes that led me to that. And I wanted to be the kind of boss that could always say to my person, I've seen worse. Because what that allowed was innovation for him that he wouldn't have had if he hadn't given me the task, and growth for me that I never would have experienced if I still had the training wheels on. My third story is about Benghazi, and we don't tell many stories about Benghazi, but I'll tell you mine. I was the director for support at the CIA during the time of Benghazi, and it all kind of blew up. Unless you were under rock, you know how it went. And there was a time when the CIA was being blamed for their people not responding in time. And so the head of the CIA at the time decided that we should go talk to the press. I was the director for support and the head of all security. My guy said, don't you dare talk to the press. This would be bad. We're the classified community. We don't talk openly to the press because fire doesn't do well with oxygen, so let's just not give it more. And the director of the CIA and the deputy director were bound and determined to do it. And like Pete Longstreet with General Lee, I went back 3 times telling truth to power about the evil that was going to happen because of this. And each time I was told, no, we're going to do it. And on the third time I said, not only are we going to do it, but you're going to be with me when I talk to the press. Guess what happened? That story went away. For as sure as I was that I was telling truth to power, the weirdest thing about this, power actually knew the right thing to do at the time. And people have asked me afterwards, would I do it differently? And I would say, not a chance. I would do the job that I have to do, but I always now keep in my mind that sometimes my bosses know more, even when I'm absolutely confident that they need the wisdom that I possess. So hear this. I don't know why any of you all are laughing up there. All right, so here goes. Here's the 7 lessons. And they're pretty quick, and they're not too bad. The first one is you have to be good about your job. Go for it. Just be good. We talk about a whole lot of other things that are necessary for success. I will tell you, this moment that the world faces, the nation must endure, requires us to be good at our jobs. Yes, we must be able to talk and network and do all that stuff, but we have to be fundamentally good at our craft. And if you're a leader, that goodness includes being able to say, I've seen worse, so you let things happen. And think about how good it is you have to be able to tell someone, I've seen worse. If I stop here and you don't take anything else, just continue the pursuit of being good and learning your craft at each discipline. Martin Luther King has a great quotation about be the best shoe shiner you can be or the best street sweeper you can be, because that's really all there is, I will tell you, and your people. The women and men who are looking to you, if you exude that attribute, they too will be inspired to be as good as they can be. Be good at your job. Be bigger than you think you ought to be. This is, I don't know, something's happened over the course of my career where we've tried to put people and get them to be small and afraid and build processes around things. I will tell you, be big and actually be bigger. Make as many decisions as you think are in your power to make, and then make a few more, because this is a world that demands it. This is not a world that is going to get there by evolution. We will be better every day, but that isn't what leadership is about. Leadership is about seeing where we must go, and instead of seeing the impediments of what we can't do, driving to what we must. And then what? Be good enough to get there, because when people want to follow you, they need to know that they're putting their hopes and dreams behind someone that's going to work for it. Be big and be brave. Learn to make decisions. If you do nothing else, that is the biggest discriminant about a successful versus a not successful leader. If I were to ask everyone in this room if we as a community are risk averse, what would you say? Raise your hand if you think we're risk averse as a community. Right? I opine that we're not risk averse, we're decision averse. A decision is something that is a fundamentally creative act that creates something that has never existed before. It isn't an equation where it can just be solved. No, every decision requires a leap. Learn to make that leap. And the way you learn to make that leap is you say, can I bear the cost of being wrong? In my seat, where I sit now, if the cost of being wrong is $1 million, I can bear that for almost anything. But if the cost of being wrong is 100 lives, I'm not ready to make that decision. You know this to be true. How many people do you know say, let's wait? Let's study it a little bit more. Let's ask a few more people. Much of that is trying to make decisions equations. And as lovely as that would be, we do not have the time in the world. Learn to do it. Take that on. Always remember that you might be the jerk. When you're a leader, you have the power to make things worse. One of the biggest mistakes we make as leaders, we become so confident in ourselves that people who would offer a contrary view, we think they just don't know as much as we do. Quick story? You want one more? Here's my jerk story. I have a great friend who's in the CIA operations officer, and she tells a story of taking a flight to Australia. And it's a long flight, and so she prepared herself. She had her bag, she opened it up, she got out her iPad and her water and her headphones, and she got out her favorite in-flight treat, Keebler fudge stripe cookies. They're shortbread cookies. If you've never had one, you're missing one of the great treats of a lifetime, fudge on the bottom. And she lovingly opened them up and set them on the seat beside her. A guy came to sit next to her, and if you're an operations officer, you're trying to decide whether you're going to recruit him, friend him, or shun him. Too early to tell. You won't believe this, before they even took off, the guy next to her took a fudge stripe cookie out of her pack. I know, right? But she hadn't yet decided what to do, and so she bit one right in his face to show him that she was dismayed at him eating one of her cookies. They take off, they're flying for a while. He eats another one. Now she slams on her headphones. He's certainly in shun category. She again bites one, her own, and, to let her know. They're flying on. She's so mad she can't read anything. Then he taps her on the arm and tilts his head toward the cookies like, would you like one of the last two? I know, you're horrified. And she is too, so she eats it, and he eats the last one, bundles it up, throws the trash, gives it to the flight attendant. The flight ends, she's so mad, nothing good has happened. She pulls down her bag to put everything back in. She unzips it. What's in the top of her bag? Her fudge stripe cookies. She was eating his. Remember, you might be the jerk. It is a great piece of leadership advice. 2 more and we're on the way home. Give people waiting room. Right? Like my boss did with the $50 million that I had, this former zoologist with no experience whatsoever. I had no right to have that task, but everything that happened later was because someone gave me that weight and the room to feel like I owned it. And the payback to the organization was that I gave a solution that hadn't happened. Oh, by the way, what that company did was the basis for all in-place sensors after that, so don't feel too bad about the company. But waiting room delivered. So that has been gifted to you. That's why you are here now. If you reflect on your accomplishments, how you got to this point to receive this, it is because someone gave you waiting room. As you go forward, give other people weight and room. As we go forward, let's give our pups weight and room. They can bear it. We bore it. And somewhere along the way, we've forgotten that and thinking that we're too smart. Give it away. I swear it'll be enough. And the last one is be kind. You know, the Me Too movement has taught a lot of lessons. I think it's a really interesting one. For me, this is the one I take home. I'm dismayed that people are shocked by those allegations and by those incidents. How could this happen? The people who upset me are the people who were in the position to see what was going on and do nothing. So as leaders, I enjoin you. Never, ever, ever make your people choose between pursuing the mission they love and being treated decently. Be kind, for everyone is fighting a great battle, and we need them all. The last one is, remember, you're not the point. The mission is the point. If you keep that in the forefront of your mind, as you have to this point, everything will be all right. So I'll end where I began. These are serious times that need serious people. You need do nothing more than pursue the path that you're on. Remember the opportunity that you have and have confidence in your abilities because of what you have achieved. And not only will you be on your way, but am I right? We'll be on our way. I'm so proud to be in this room with you. Chuck, I'm so honored to have the opportunity to speak. Let's go hear the awards and hear your stories. Thank you so much.
So, Sue, who can't hear me right now, but Sue, thanks. Those are great remarks, right kind of remarks, right time, right place, right folks to hear it. So thank you very much. So, on to the awards. You've got your programs. There are bios in there on both our presenters and our recipients. I hope you'll read it cover to cover. And learn all about their impressive accomplishments. We will keep the presentations brief in terms of the actual presentation of awards in order to hear from the recipients of what they're thinking. You may have noticed something a little bit different in the program this year. It's not a typo. We do, in fact, have 2 recipients for the Edwin H. Land Award. And we're not talking a lot in these presentations about the namesakes, but we have 2 namesakes that aren't with us anymore, Edwin Land and Sidney Drell. But to give you an idea of the sort of contributions they made, please read those descriptions of the namesakes. You know, kind of the fun sort of things. You know, many of you in the room probably never even heard of the Polaroid Land camera, okay? But he's the guy, okay? And it's all about the sort of impressive contributions and innovative things that industry has done for our country over time, and that's why this award's named after him. In this case, we had a tie this year. We were very impressed with both Patrick Biltkin of Vencore and David Lindenbaum of In-Q-Tel's Cosmic Works. The committee decided to award dual recipients for the first time, believing correctly, I think, that the purpose of the Achievement Awards is not to pick winners, but to recognize the most deserving individuals contributing to our national security. As you learn more about Patrick and David tonight, I think you will agree with the committee's decision. So, it's now my pleasure to introduce Patrick Biltkin, Director of Analytics at Vencore. Patrick has been a leader in defining, delivering, and adapting big data analytic methods for activity-based intelligence in support of NGA, NRO, and other intelligence community customers. Patrick recently led a team to monitor compliance with the cessation of hostilities agreement in Syria using open source analytics. The team developed a multi-source approach to create a holistic view of potential violations of the agreement. Subsequent daily reports from this effort identified over 500 suspected violations, informing intelligence products used by ODNI, DIA, NGA, the National Security Council, and others. Patrick's dedication to advancing mission-enhancing software solutions, innovating groundbreaking research, and inspiring young professionals makes him an asset to the intelligence and national security arena. I am proud to present the 2018 Edward Land Industry Award to Patrick Bilkin.
Thank you, everyone. We'll just give the charts a few minutes here to load. No, just kidding. We're going to do it without charts. It's a tremendous honor to receive an award named after Edwin Land. Dr. Land was a brilliant researcher. He was an amazing scientist, but he was also a humanist that believed in doing the right thing. Throughout his career, Land made a special point to hire and recruit women and promote them as research scientists, and made Polaroid a leader in affirmative action 50 years ago. He also knew the importance not only of technical excellence, but being able to convey the importance of an idea to leadership. When Land was trying to sell the concept of the U-2 surveillance aircraft to President Eisenhower, who was an avid golfer, he explained that the U-2 could resolve a golf ball at 2,000 yards, about 15 times better than the best human. And that was probably a lot more effective than saying, it's about 4 arc seconds. So I learned the importance of both technical excellence and storytelling from my PhD thesis advisor, Professor Dimitri Mavris, who's my guest here tonight from Georgia Tech. He flew up to spend the evening with us. And Professor Mavris is somewhat famous in our field. He's graduated over 800 master's degree students and nearly 200 PhDs in his 30 years at Georgia Tech. Now, one of the things that Professor Mavris doesn't know, there's actually only a couple things Professor Mavris doesn't know, but one of the things that he doesn't know is there's about 36 of us, alumni of his program, that are supporting nearly every program in Director Gordon's portfolio. So Dr. Mavris, I'd like to thank you first for being here tonight and for the mentorship that you've provided and for the contributions that you've personally made to the intelligence and national security of the country. Thank you. Now, Doc also taught me the importance of mentoring. And one of the really cool things about my job at Vencore is I have the opportunity to work with these excited, energetic young professionals and introduce them to the benefits of our mission. And I'm excited to tell you that 2 of my mentees are here tonight, Lauren and Chris from Vencore, and they're doing modeling and simulation and enterprise engineering that is improving the capability, the persistence, and the resiliency of our future intelligence collection and processing architecture. So Lauren and Chris, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work you're doing. And remember, that Baker Award is waiting for you someday. So finally, the last point that I'd like to make, I'd like to thank all of the mentors in my life. Professor Mavris, Kent from Vencore is here. Mac, thank you for everything that you've done for my career. I'd also like to make a special mention of INSA Chairman Tish Long, whose vision for NGA's future transformation was really, it started my whole career. It spawned the first program that I ever did and my first project in the IC. So she's always been an inspirational leader to me for the way that she put us on a path that really led us to big data and led us into the future. Finally, and most importantly, I'd like to thank the most important mentor in my life, and that is my wife, Dr. Janelle Nixon. Thank you.
Okay, now I think you know what we're talking about here, right? Okay, thank you, Patrick. So Patrick is joined in being honored for the Land Award by David Lindenbaum, Principal Engineer at In-Q-Tel's Cosmic Works. David has played a key role in the SpaceNet initiative. SpaceNet encompasses an online repository of freely available satellite imagery, co-registered map data to train algorithms, and public competitions designed to accelerate innovation in artificial intelligence for geospatial data. SpaceNet has substantially benefited the IC's strategic planning for remote sensing-focused AI, including the development of computer vision applications and advanced research projects. David and his team have also assisted efforts to bridge computer vision and geospatial imagery, helping introduce a new means of data exploitation for intelligence purposes. David has been instrumental in several machine learning competitions, which have attracted over 250 technical submissions. David's work on SpaceNet and other CosmiQ projects has helped organizations throughout the intelligence and national security communities advance their own research. I am proud to present the 2018 Edwin Land Industry Award to David Lindenbaum.
So it's an honor to be here today and receive this award. Thank you, Sue, for your great comments. Truly, one of the things that I love every day is that I get to wake up and focus on the mission. That's what got me to start my career as a contractor at BAE Systems and what motivates me every day. I'm also honored to win an award named after Edwin Land. I'm still in awe of the accomplishments that occurred in the U-2 and the Corona project. It would be amazing to be then at that time as an engineer, and I'm still in their footsteps right now. For my whole career, I've been lucky enough to work for incredible technical projects. But it's always been what's motivated me is to understand that the best capability that I need to create is for an end user to do their job. I'm not solving the problem, I'm just giving someone else the tool to actually execute a mission. And that focus on that has actually been the driving force every day. Waking up has been an incredibly proud thing. So for the last 10 years, I've learned many important lessons, but the most important is that engineering is a team sport. So with that, I wanted to say thank you to a bunch of the teams that I've been a part of and how much they've given me an impact. First, to family and friends, I really appreciate all the support you provided over the years, to all the late nights, all the missed family events, and all the times where clearly my head was on some other problem and not focused on you right now. I really appreciate the support and the forgiveness for that. Second, to the BAE team in Hudson, New Hampshire, that team helped create the engineer that I am today and provide the foundation that I get to work with every day. Last, or not last, but also I'd like to thank all the government partners. My job is incredibly enriched by working with government partners who can trust me with their use cases and their missions and allow me to be a part and have the privilege to execute against those. Every single partnership I've worked with, that's been the highlight of every job I've worked on. Lastly, I want to thank my team at In-Q-Tel and CosmiQ. Dr. Lisa Porter, you've been an incredible mentor. I've learned an immense amount. And as Sue mentioned, giving me the capability to put the weight and the responsibility to accomplish things like SpaceNet. Ryan Lewis, you've also provided an incredible amount of support in the capabilities you provided, and again, giving me those opportunities to do things that as an engineer, I never thought I'd have the ability to ask those questions for. And also the rest of the CosmiQ team. It's been incredible work the last 3 years working on incredibly innovative things, and the rest of our SpaceNet partners. It's been an honor to work with you, and I'm motivated every day by what I learn. So I guess I'll tell a little story of something that was motivating me. About 4 or 5 years ago, I got to work on a program that I got to take almost from design all the way to finish. We did the operational OCONUS assessment, and we passed every technical mark flying colors, above every threshold. Walked to the end user and said, we'll never use it. Learned an important lesson that day. Technical requirements are not what actually accomplished the mission. So from that day on, I wanted to make sure I knew what the mission was every day as opposed to what the technical requirement that flowed down for it was. And that's what I've actually gotten to do with CosmiQ for the last 4 years, is honestly ask the question of what this rapidly innovating environment of technology, specifically with commercial space, and how does that affect national security? And we've done a good job of starting to explore those issues. SpaceNet is one of those examples where we truly get to put an idea of how to technology is going to change the GeoInt world. The point is, if we can crowdsource things, we can actually get an idea of what the open source community is doing, and hopefully we'll understand and get ahead of that innovation, as opposed to finding out about it when we read about it in TechCrunch, as Google's implemented a new technology. So it's kind of a lesson that I learned that the perfect, elegant solution to the wrong problem is not very useful. It's a little too late. It's a great thing. And so hopefully with SpaceNet, we've started to be able to answer those questions. So as a contractor who spent most of their life trying to develop those technology solutions, that's the one thing I take away at every time. Make sure I'm solving the right problem and the right question. So I want to thank you very much for the award. It's been an incredible honor, and I'm motivated every day by the people in this room.
Okay, thank you, David. Before I move to the next award, as we started introductory remarks, I acknowledge that we had 3 former Baker Award winners, or 4, including Charlie in the room, and 3 of the namesakes, but we now have the 5th Baker Award winner and one of the other namesakes, Senator John Warner. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to the Sidney Drell Academic Award. I'm now pleased to welcome Jill Bruning, Chair of INSA's Intelligence Champions Council, to present the award. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Chuck. It's my pleasure to introduce the winner of the next award, Allison Lawler Russell, for the Academic Award, and she is an assistant professor of political science at Merrimack College, just north of Boston. And Allison is a cybersecurity expert, and she has made critical contributions in cyberspace, in the development of cyberspace rules, expectations, international norms, and laws. She just recently published her 2nd book, which provides the first comprehensive analysis of anti-access and aerial denial operations in cyberspace. Her first book was just about whether or how to conduct cyber blockade operations. Her publications have been in great assistance to the Navy, and it's pivotal to advancing our national security. I am very proud to present the 2018 Sidney Drell Academic Award to Allison Lawler Russell.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this award. Thank you to INSA, and thank you to everyone for being here for it. I really appreciate it. It's a tremendous honor to be here today. I would like to thank my husband, Kevin, there you are, for his support in everything, big and small. He's my rock, and I wouldn't be here without him, so thank you, Kevin. And sitting next to him, I'd like to thank my parents, who have traveled to be here today, and they have been a source of encouragement and support for my entire life, always encouraging me to do things, to try new things, to learn, to grow, to be the best that I could be, and to support me in every way as I reached and tried and strove for new things. So thank you for being here, Mom and Dad. I would also like to thank Admiral Stavridis for nominating me for this award, and for the people at the Fletcher School who never cease to amaze me with their support and encouragement. I'd like to thank Merrimack College and my colleagues who support my research and are just great people to work with every day. And I'd also like to thank the Smith-Richardson Foundation that supported my research for much of it. Without their support, it probably would not have been possible. So I appreciate that. So as you've heard, my research is on cyberspace, cybersecurity. Cyber is really important to society, to economy, to government, to military. it underpins everything that we do, essentially. And it's really become a center of gravity for modern societies, especially democracies. And as a center of gravity, we need to treat it as such. We need to protect it and we need to defend it. And my research looks specifically at access to cyberspace, or maybe really how access can be denied to cyberspace, the strategic anti-access area denial operations. And I think this is of critical importance because we rely on it so much, we need to be able to secure it and protect it. And so I look at the vulnerabilities in cyberspace, at the physical layer, at the logic layer, at the information layer, and at the user layer. And I should say I'm a political scientist. So I do this from that perspective in order to help create a more robust, comprehensive cybersecurity strategy and policy so that we can secure cyberspace for all of our needs going forward. And I think we must deter threats through robust, redundant, and resilient defenses. We must ensure that we have the capabilities and the political will to conduct offensive actions and to provide negative consequences to those who would threaten or who would manipulate cyberspace or threaten our access to it. But I think we also must seek to develop cooperative frameworks, such as international norms or international laws that can govern the use of cyberspace, so to encourage good behavior and to disincentivize or discourage malicious action in cyberspace. And that will take time and that will take work, but it's an investment that's absolutely worth it. And I count myself lucky that I come to academia and to this challenge, this policy challenge, from a background of being a political military analyst for the Center for Naval Analysis. And what that taught me at the beginning of my career was to tackle big problems that maybe I can't actually solve, but maybe I can move the ball forward, even just a little bit. And so that is what I'm trying to do in my research. And in my research and in my teaching, I strive to always make it relevant to the real world, to policy, to operators, to the best of my ability. And so it is a tremendous honor for me to receive this award from INSA, from this community, and an award named after Sidney Drell, who did so much for this country as a scholar citizen, who advised presidents for over 5 decades. It is a tremendous honor for me to receive this award, and I deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I'm now very pleased to welcome former NSA Director and retired Navy Admiral Bill Studeman to present the Military Award.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to see so many people here tonight. You know, it's sometimes a custom that those of us who come to give these awards can say a few things in advance. So I'd like to say a couple of things. I have 7 stories and 18 parables to tell you. Actually, that's not really true. The 2 early comments I'd like to make before I introduce and celebrate my awardee really has to do with, in my 56 years of being an intelligence professional, I can say that, and echo essentially what Sue Gordon has said, I have never seen so much threat space that exists today. And a lot of us who are giving out these awards lived through the Cold War. Not only the threat space, but the nature and character of it even being existential. So the stakes are really very high in the context of what's going on in the world today. It's really a set of ciphers, inside ciphers, actually, the complexity of it. And it represents the largest amount of concern that I think that we've had, and it requires the most amount of professionalism, high levels of professionalism on the part of the intel community to deal with this. Now, the second thing I'd like to say has to do with Senator Warner. I wanted to thank you so much, sir, for giving back the book that I loaned you on the comprehensive history of the Royal Navy. He spotted it in my hands years ago, and I loaned it to him, and I thought that's the last I'll ever see of that book. And literally a year later, I got this book back, and it's something I actually occasionally pick up and read. And I thank you very much, sir. You're a great patriot, and a great American. Well, my job tonight is to celebrate the achievements of Lieutenant Rachel Carter. Her family's here. Her mom got stuck in the Jacksonville airport, or perhaps arrived just in time and missed her flight. So didn't even actually arrive at Reagan until 6 o'clock, and had the harrowing ride where she paid a taxi cab driver an extreme amount of money to get here quickly, which I guess was a fairly harrowing ride. So again, thank you for the family coming, her husband and the rest of the family. Rachel Carter, fellow sailor, obviously. She's a intel professional and information warfare officer, as we call it in the Navy, because we've consolidated all of our information businesses together, which seems logical in the information age. She's a strategic plans officer at the U.S. SOCOM, the Special Operations Command. Lieutenant Carter leads a high visibility production of intelligence products, working with others, including the law enforcement, FBI, to eliminate and disrupt kidnap for ransom networks targeting Western citizens around the globe, with the goal of gaining the safe return of isolated, detained, missing, and captured Western citizens. She assembled a working group of experts from across DoD, and their products drive SOCOM's operational planning efforts. I would also say that she's the major Navy command fitness leader, and she helps sailors from across the command meet and exceed their physical fitness standards. My son, who's also Navy, is an extreme sports guy, so I would think that he'd be very happy to hear about what you're doing in Tampa. He's down in Miami suffering at Southcom. Lieutenant Carter also serves as a sexual assault prevention and response victim advocate, routinely displaying the interpersonal skills, empathy, and warmth necessary to deal with victims of sexual assault. She selflessly shares her knowledge with subordinates and peers, and encourages others to improve their technical proficiency and professional growth. So it's my real pleasure and honor to present the military award, the INSA Military Award, to U.S. Navy Lieutenant Rachel Carter.
Thank you, Admiral Studeman, for your kind words, and more importantly, your incredible impact on the intelligence community. Your legacy is a reminder of our enduring obligation to provide the best analysis for both the warfighter and the decision maker. And Principal Deputy Director Gordon, I found your point on kindness very interesting because it's such a simple concept, yet has such profound effects on the troops. Ladies and gentlemen, I am immeasurably humbled by the opportunity to stand before you this evening. I am here as a result of the incredible mentorship that I have received in my seemingly brief military career thus far, from extremely impressive friends and peers, as well as the love, support, and humor of my family. First and foremost, I would like to thank my chain of command for this exceptional opportunity. To my J2 director, Brigadier General Schmidt, who has spent her entire career shattering barriers for our community, and who continues to create opportunities for junior officers such as myself to benefit from in the future. To my Joint Intelligence Center Director, Colonel Jones, sir, thank you for your resounding endorsement. I admire your straightforward leadership and ceaseless initiative. I'm immeasurably grateful for your attendance this evening, and most notably to my branch chief, Major Lewis, to my senior intelligence analyst, Mr. Rob Meekins, and to my intelligence lead, Dr. George Lovewine. I am eternally grateful for your guidance and your advocacy. Although you began serving our country when I was likely still sniffing markers and gluing glitter to construction paper, you have set the standard in my career for camaraderie and deck plate leadership. To Admiral Hoppe, sir, I am honored by your attendance. Thank you for your vital career mentorship, championing my family dynamic, and humoring me by listening to me butcher football statistics. Working for you will undoubtedly be the highlight of my career. My dad, retired Navy air crewman, search and rescue swimmer, and the most outstanding American and patriot I know. Thank you for teaching me not to be a jacked up J.O., laughing at my mistakes, and teaching me before I even stepped foot in service that our enlisted corps is the heart and soul of our military. I am still tracking that I will never outrank you. To my selfless mother, thank you for always being my one-man pep rally and for seeing the good in everyone. How you created such a skeptical daughter is beyond my comprehension, but I continuously strive to take a page out of your book. My beautiful and vibrant sister Grace, thank you for keeping me up to speed on emerging technology and the power of social media. I now realize that my generation is no longer cool. In all seriousness, I hope that my standing here is a testament to you that you can do anything and you can be anything in this world, so long as you surround yourself with driven, talented, and positive people. To my husband, Brandon, who is hands down the most impressive human being I've ever met. He's an incredible husband and father, has far out-educated me, has set the standard for physical fitness in our household, and always continues to push forward with the goal of bettering our family. I have yet to meet someone with your drive, and hands down would not be able to capitalize on the opportunities that have been presented to our family without you. You are the love of my life. Our children, Dalton and Ivy, were unable to join us this evening, which is a very bittersweet sentiment, as they would likely be scaling the walls and yelling, "Mom," over and over again. They are beautiful little souls, and they have made me more patient and more kind. They have also taught me more about counterinsurgency strategy than any field manual or joint publication that I have ever read. It is all about addressing the underlying causes of their grievances. My professional experience thus far has been very unique in the sense that I've worked strategic intelligence for most of my very short career. The only thing that's more humorous than showing up to a 4-star combatant command as an O3 is showing up to your previous 4-star combatant command as an O2. The novelty and hilarity is not lost on me. Keeping in the spirit, perhaps the Navy will send me to the Pentagon after this tour. On the 4+1 threat spectrum, I've spent the majority of my time focusing on the +1 aspect, transnational violent extremism, from both a geopolitical and counterterrorism perspective. As outlined in our current national security strategy, our relationships with allies and partner nations are critical to countering VEOs. Working by, with, and through partner nations undoubtedly magnifies our power abroad. And we have an expectation that they share a reasonable burden of the responsibility to protect our common interests against common threats. However, I do believe that the point that may be missing from that logic is that most countries that we work with were not afforded the opportunity to be founded on the principles of freedom, justice, and domestic tranquility. In fact, it's the complete opposite, with many of these countries experiencing multiple turnovers of power, only to have their colonial rulers and dynasties exchanged for dictatorships, with a common theme of using the people to benefit the state, vice the other way around. The resulting callousness to outsider influence and lack of trust in state institutions is warranted in a lot of those cases. Ironically, these are also the countries that are vital to our global counterterrorism campaign, since our adversaries are easily able to capitalize on their undergoverned spaces, devastating poverty, and weak government institutions. I find a very interesting parallel between the mentorship that I've been a beneficiary from and what I believe is conducive to good partnerships in the future. I think a lot of it is about having very tough and open discussions. I think being able to discuss things that perhaps our partners are uncomfortable with to be able to get at a better solution. I also think it's about transparency. Our community especially hates being wrong. But I think that if we are able to acknowledge circumstances where perhaps we didn't make the best decision, moving forward with partner nations will undoubtedly have better effects in the future. And most importantly, I think sincerity. I think that if we go into these engagements with partner nations with a sincere and determined end state that they buy off on, the effects will be tremendous. And with our community, it is our heavy obligation to provide the best analysis, not just the information, but the infrastructure as well. Great analysis is great, but if you can't get it to the guys downrange that you want to get it to, it's not exactly timely nor relevant. I think that we continue to apply emerging technology to confront rapidly evolving adversaries, and it's our creativity and boldness that is more important now than it ever was before. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity. I am immeasurably humbled to stand before all of the expertise in this room, and I look forward to speaking with you at the dessert bar. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Lieutenant Carter. Okay. I got to get the script in the right place here, okay? So, I knew that part. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dick Kerr to present the Kerr Government Award.
It's always dangerous to put me in front of a microphone. Don, are you going to come up? Stand up there. Don Parlett is the government nominee and government awardee for this today, analyst. Before I say a few words about him, I wanted to thank INSA for this particular set of ceremonies. Giving awards and recognition to mid-level analyst or experienced analyst, I think is a great thing. Too often, senior people give awards to each other. It's a little like the movie industry. But I think the people that do the work more often are the analysts in the trenches, and they're the ones that make us, the senior people, look good. And they deserve a lot more attention. And this is, I think, a great opportunity to do that. Don Parlett is an analyst of counterterrorism following Afghanistan. I've always been very interested in Afghanistan. For a number of years, I've interested in the history. It's been a torment to everybody that's ever ventured there for 2,500 years, since Alexander the Great went there in 330, followed by a whole variety of other people, including the British in the 1740s, and then the Russians between 69 and 79, spent 10 years, in which probably contributed to the downfall of the Soviet Union. I mean, I think it had a major impact. Terrorism has always been a terrible part of the Afghan scene. I think Don knows better than I, but I think in 2015 there were probably 4,500 casualties from terrorism. In 1916, probably 5,500, and I don't know what the number is in 17, but it's probably larger. And it's a terrible set of circumstance, because that terrorism is often directed not against military combatants, although there is some of that as well, and we continue to lose our soldiers there, but it's also against civilians and innocent people in marketplaces. So Don's contribution to this is to provide understanding and support to the military forces and to policymakers in trying to help deal with a problem that is an overwhelming and continuing problem. And I might say one where we've been involved now longer than the Soviets were involved in the 60s and 70s. And it's one that I have real concern about the end of it. It's hard to see an end. And we are quite a different group of people there. We're trying to help another government survive and a military survive. Neither the Russians nor Alexander the Great nor the British were trying to do that. They were trying to run a country quite different. So, Don, I want to congratulate you on the service you've done, the support you've provided. Your mother is here, which is great, and other family members and friends. So it's great to have people see you get this recognition. And thank you for serving so well. Oh, yeah. That's right. I forget about the real thing here, is getting the award. Not my talking about it.
Good evening. Thank you, INSA, for this momentous award. It is an honor to be selected to stand here and accept the Richard J. Kerr Award, much less from the man himself, which was an incredibly wonderful surprise. It's especially gratifying to be standing up here, especially among my fellow awardees. It's an honor to stand here with your fantastic contributions to the intelligence community. Thank you for your support in our mission. I want to first thank my family, in particular my mom, Jill. I could not ask for a better parent, advocate, friend, and supporter than that provided to me by my mom. I would not be who I am without her instilling her values, morals, and work ethic into me. She's one of my favorite people, and I'm so glad to finally be able to share a little bit of my career with you. So thank you. In addition, I'd like to thank my Aunt Diane, who's also here. You know, she's been a fantastic supporter for me. Her irreverent humor, her endless enthusiasm, and her kindness have always been a balm for me. So thank you for always having my back and for always being curious about what I'm doing, even if I can't tell you. Next, I want to thank my coworkers, teammates, and friends. And which is great for me is that usually and one individual can be all three, and how rare is that you have coworkers that you actually like. And whether it's daily work in the office stateside or whether it's being deployed overseas, the commonality I've noticed beyond the exceptionally gratifying mission is the immense quality of the people within the intelligence community. A colleague of mine once remarked to me that deployment is addictive, not just because of the mission and the impact that you have on it and that you see on a day-to-day basis, but mainly because of the amazing driven people you work beside in pursuit of a common objective. And he's absolutely right. I am lucky to have two amazing colleagues attend the ceremony tonight for me, and that's Kristen and Brian. Thank you guys so much for coming here. Your support, it's something that I'll always treasure. Thank you for having my back downrange, for challenging me intellectually, and encouraging me to push myself beyond my own limits. I am incredibly blessed to have you in my corner, both as true, trusted friends and fiercely competent colleagues. Deploying to Afghanistan was a singularly unique experience for me. I had some little notion of what I was getting myself into, but overall, I was pretty much flying in the dark as what it was going to be like once my boots actually hit the ground. I can honestly say that the experience was one I will forever treasure, as I think it made me a better person and a better analyst. It drove home into me how we've been doing this for 16 years, and as Dick Kerr said, this war seems endless, and yet we still have thousands of young men and women flying thousands of miles from their home into, for many of them, the fog of war, not knowing what to expect. And, they do it willingly because they think it's a worthy sacrifice, and they're right, it is. I look forward to going back. I don't think anybody's ever said they're looking forward to going back to Afghanistan, but I am, because my work's not done. The mission endures, it continues, and I think I can continue to help it. I look out here from my friends, colleagues, strangers, and people who are here to support me, even if they don't necessarily know me, but thank you. But looking out here, the idea of sacrifice of being away from my family, missing holidays, birthdays, working grueling hours, it's sacrifice, and looking out here, it's worth it. You guys are worth it, always. So thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting my fellow awardees, and thank you for being you.
So thanks, Don. And I think now we have Joan Dempsey to present the Dempsey Mentorship Award.
Good evening, everyone. What a fantastic night this is. It gives me hope, right? Being in Washington, you lose hope. But being here tonight with these amazing awardees and also with Senator John Warner, a personal hero of mine, the only person I never minded testifying in front of on the Hill, because he was the only person I could count on to be serious, prepared, and always a gentleman. So it's great to see you here tonight, Senator, and I wish you were back. I am delighted tonight to present the INSA Mentor Award to U.S. Air Force Senior Master Sergeant Timothy Gavreau. Now, Tim is a 19-year veteran of the Air Force, and having enlisted when he was 19 years old. I enlisted in the United States Navy a year earlier when I was 18, but I only lasted 3 years, so Tim, you beat me. He also has a big job at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station launching satellites. Now, some of you may be surprised to know that the NRO launches satellites, but that's what Tim does for them down at Cape Canaveral. I was surprised in the write-up to see that some of those satellites cost more than $1 billion. That's in the first year, of course. If you really want to get one up, it's going to be a whole lot more than that. But that's a big job, and Tim has done that job superbly well. He coordinates the activities of 5 different government agencies for every successful launch. I coordinated the activities of 17 government agencies, and we never successfully did anything. So Tim, you beat me on that one too. But where Tim and I do agree is that mentoring is a critical component of leadership. To be a good mentor means that you are a good leader, and to be a good leader means that you are a good mentor. And certainly Tim is all of that. In addition to leading his team and mentoring his team for the successful mission that he's responsible for at Cape Canaveral, he also led them through a Category 4 hurricane last year, and they came through unscathed and learned lots of new procedures and ways to operate and protect the mission at Cape Canaveral, which is a good thing because 11 months later they got to do it again with Hurricane Irma. But it's that sort of sustained leadership and mentoring that is critical to mission success. So I could not be more pleased to introduce tonight the award winner for the Mentorship Award, Senior Master Sergeant Gavreau.
Thank you, Ms. Dempsey, for the kind words and the recap. It's really an honor to be presented with your namesake award here today. And as the father of 2 daughters, thank you for your pioneering spirit and being an inspiration for them so they can be whatever they want to be. Also, Ms. Gordon, as a representative of the NRO, I hope at this point that we can start rebuilding our relationship from your first foray into it and then go from there. As always with any of this, these awards are never won on individual merit alone. And the only reason I'm standing up here is to the hard work and dedication of the teams that I am a part of. And they really should be getting full credit for this. So my inspirational words I was asked to give will be off the great leadership that I get to look for examples for leadership and mentorship. I've been fortunate to be a part of the amazing team at the NRO. And I'd like to thank Director Sapp for nominating me for this award. It speaks volumes of her leaderships and values and her desire to recognize those that work for her, all the way down to the tactical level where I operate. So thank you, Director Sapp. Within the NRO, I get the distinction to work within the Office of Space Launch led by Colonel Skeen. And the Office of Space Launch is really an exciting place to be. All the stories you hear of the analysts and everybody working and checking on overhead assets, they need to get to space somehow. And when the intelligence community wants to put something up there where you have to come to the experts, and all those experts I get to work with within the Office of Space Launch.
and there are very few places where everyone's hard work, sacrifice, and dedication to the mission is executed in such a spectacular way than with a rocket launching successfully into space and deploying that icy asset that's going to be critical to our national security. And within the Office of Space Launch, I have the absolute privilege to be a part of the NRO Cape Canaveral team led by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Benjamin. Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin and the professionals have mentored me and have helped me to be successful within the intelligence community. The hard work and dedication of the NRO team is the reason I'm standing up here, and they deserve full credit for everything that happens. Thank you, Colonel Benjamin, for yours, Major Somerman, and Chief Johnson's leadership and mentorship this past year and a half. It's actually been instrumental to my success. I'm also honored to be able to talk about my family. Family is very important to me, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. So I'd like to thank my wife, Melissa, my two daughters, Amaya and Talia, my mom, Joyce, and my two brothers, Sean and Dana, who none of which could be here, but it's going to be recorded, so hi, Mom. So again, thank you for honoring the NRO, the Office of Space Launch, the entire NRO Cape team, my family, and finally me with this award. Thank you and have a good night.
So I do want to say something there, Tim, and that was you talked about all the people that mentored you, but you are getting the award for being the mentor, so thank you for being a mentor. And Joan, thank you for presenting the award and being here tonight. Thank you. So I get to introduce a friend and boss, former boss and mentor, to come up here and say a few words. I think he's going to share some thoughts before he presents the award. But I'd like for you to join me in welcoming. I need to say one other thing first, though. I want to help you to help me celebrate the birthday of Senator John Warner, who turned 91 this past weekend. Okay. And I ask you to join me in welcoming him to the stage, and he's going to share a few thoughts with us.
Well, there's a little sparkle left in the old boy tonight. But I don't know, I attend a lot of things. I don't say that by way of bragging, but I have had a charmed life and many different jobs. But I found tonight enormously uplifting in my spirit. These young people come up and I carry away the impression, they're smarter than I am. And this country's in the hands of another generation that are fully, if not more capable. Lieutenant, I was a seaman, sailor, white hat before you were born. But the Navy, I'll tell you, Lieutenant, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It was the Battle of the Bulge hit this country and caused an enormous shock. We thought we were prevailing. And my high school class, all the guys literally quit school and joined the services in December of 1944. And my father, I'll come back to him because it relates to our honored guest here. Where is she? Right there, yeah. In a minute. But he was a very famous doctor, a fine man. And he just thought it was he couldn't contain it anymore. He'd been in World War I. I'll deal with that in a minute. When I get a rostrum, it's a dangerous thing to ever give a retired senator the rostrum. But the Navy did everything for me. It put a foundation in my life at 17, and I'll never forget it. And I've always felt that I could want to pay back in some respects for what it did for me, all the way from white hat to Secretary of the Navy to Chairman of the Armed Services Committee, with that foundation laid by the Navy, and a little tour in the Marines I had, which is a digression. But to see these young service persons come in here is just so uplifting. And I found the night exciting. So reason it bothered me, I just can't understand America today in how it's treating its civil servants, be it in the intelligence service, or the FBI, or in the firefighters, or in the police forces. What's the matter with this country? It's that people are enabling the rest of us to lead the lives we want to pursue, and to give us a safety net, and to be able to go at night and sleep a little bit and cast off our problems. But I've seen this old country go through a lot of different things. I remember when I really first went into public office was 1969. I became Undersecretary of the Navy. And, well, actually, I go back from that. I remember coming back. I served in the Navy, and then I joined the Marines, and I had a tour in Korea. And I remember when we came home and we hit the discharge depot, I was the first lieutenant. They said, "Lieutenant, take off your uniform. You'll have a better time getting back again with the people." Because that was the beginning of the turning against the military. That was 1950, spring of 52, when I came back. And then when I was Undersecretary of the Navy, we were in absolute difficulty in this country. The Vietnam War, indeed, was a very divisive chapter in our life. But why did the people of this country take it out on the soldiers, sailors, and airmen? It was unbelievable. Now, you know, old secretaries of the Navy, they threw eggs at us when we spoke, and we did other things. But these people were just not respected for what they were told to do, required to do under law, because many were draftees, most were volunteers. But we'll survive this. But fire upon your house those who want to cast stones at the civil servants in this country, no matter what you do. That's my opening statement. Now, this is, come on up here. You may as well come up here and stand. There we go. This is a most unusual awardee. It's all written up and you've read all about her. But what are you doing? I know it by heart. I don't need this.
Right there.
I know everything there is to know about her. Now, why they put you down at that end and me up at this end, I can't figure that out. And yeah, the choreography needs a little improvement here. Nice to see you, Lieutenant. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. We're going to talk about you in a minute. But there's an interesting thing that we ought to spend a moment or two on. This building. How did it happen? It was in my final 30 years I served in the Senate. In the last 6 years, there was a group of us. Now, mind you, in my period in the Senate, from 1978 through 98, 75% on the average of the senators had worn proudly the uniform of our country. We were taught that fundamental, that you respect your fellow sailor, airman, and Marine because your life could be dependent on their ability to perform their duties someday. And that was fundamental. And no matter how much we fought on the floor of the Senate, the Democrats and the Republicans, after hours when the real work was done, we broke out the beer and we talked to each other, and we got things done because of the commonality of our background and understanding the importance of what we were trying to do as a nation. Duty, honor, country was that generation that I was served in. But the World War II guys, and I'd caught the last 2 years of World War II in training, but men like Bob Dole, Bob and I are the only two alive today out of about a dozen World War II senators that sat down one day and said, we ought to establish the Peace Institute, an institute which stands for trying to resolve conflict before it breaks out and bloodshed flows. And I remember they came around to all of us. I was chairman of Armed Services, Ted Stevens, Dan Inouye had the Appropriation Committee, Mark Hatfield had a committee. They were all of us. And we got in a room one day and we decided when we had to get the money, we would take it out of our own committee budgets that we were overseeing for the Department of Defense in my case. Of course, Ted and Danny Inouye had the whole of the Senate. But we actually went in to budgets over a period of 2 years and got roughly $100 million to build the U.S. Peace Institute. And here it stands today, and tonight we enjoy it. And it's done its job. Now, my last story is about my father. He was in World War I. He started out, this is the interesting thing as it relates to you. He started out as a schoolmaster, and he boarded with a doctor. And he graduated from college in 1903. And to pay his board and fare at the doctor's house, he drove the doctor's horse and buggy to all the calls and so forth, and drove his old Model T Ford. But you had to have both vehicles in those days because some of the communities you went in had no roads. So you relied on the horse and buggy. And then he went on to the doctor told him one day, he said, John, you understand and do as much about medicine as I do, having helped me for 3 years with all these patients and so forth. Why don't you go off and get a degree? And he got a scholarship to New York University Medical School. And he went through, and then he was a resident at the big hospital there. And he was on ambulance duty as a resident, time and time again, and honestly driving a horse and buggy, because some of the areas of New York, there were no roads, or the roads were so bad they had to get back in for medical care, and they had that. But his job was triage. That was what he was taught. And he went into World War II as a young captain in the Army Medical Corps, right into the front lines. He was in all 3 major engagements, and his job was triage. Now, triage, for those that you're not familiar with it, is the ability of a trained person to go in and instantly take a look at those who have been injured, make quick decisions as to who needs help immediately, what this one needs, can we save him or her, as the life may be, or others, as he used to say, give them morphine, settle the pain, there's no hope. I commend you for that. It really brings back memories of the old boy. So I congratulate you on what you did, and I'm honored to stand here and be a modest part of this ceremony. And why don't you get up here, and I'm going to stand with you. I'm not going to leave you as you tell your story. You know, Chuck Alsop has always got to get into it. He was one of the most able persons in my Senate career. And you did a wonderful job, old boy.
Well, thank you, sir.
But you still want to ham it up every time you get a chance. There you go. Have we got it? Down, tilt it a little bit. Yeah. Got it? Good? All right. Yeah. How about it? That's good. Did I get that triage about right?
Perfectly.
Perfect. Go ahead, have at it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to forgive me. About a year and a half ago, my arms got too short to read the newspaper, so I need spectacles, so bear with me. Thank you. This is truly an honor for me to be here in Washington, D.C., and it's certainly an honor to even be considered for such an award, especially in the company of all these recipients. I'd like to thank Paul Rogers, without whom I would not be here. Paul nominated me for this award and thankfully has accompanied me here tonight. Paul has been a friend and a great supporter for a long time, and I am grateful that he was able to be here to share this. I'd like to recognize the members of Squad 18, a group of very talented and motivated individuals with whom it is my pleasure to work. There is nothing they will not face and nothing they will not tackle. It is a privilege and honor for me to work with them. I'd like to thank my parents, both of who were able to be here tonight. 2 weeks ago, my mother was in the emergency room of Brooklyn Hospital with all manner of tubes hooked up to her, but she was determined to be here. And I am very grateful to her and my father for being here tonight. Thank you to the committee and all those involved in the event. Senator Warner, holy Toledo. This is quite an honor for me to even meet you and then to have an award presented by you. I was told to let you know that when you come to Brooklyn, the pints are on the house at Putnam's Pub and Cooker on Myrtle Avenue. So, you and me, okay? All right. When I was growing up, we didn't have a TV, so the radio became my lifeline to the outside world. Every evening, there would be a report of chaos from within the city limits or around the globe coming through the airways, always reminding me of just how very large and unwieldy the world was. New York City in the 1970s, the decade I first remember, was showing signs of wear from years of neglect, and the society that surrounded it was ever-changing and seemed to be in constant upheaval. As the decade continued, terrorism and bombing became a staple of violent protest. The bombing of Francis Tavern, a restaurant that sits across from the Staten Island Ferry, was bombed at lunch hour by a group trying to bring attention to the desire for Puerto Rican independence. The tavern had once served as George Washington's headquarters during the Revolutionary War, and in an instant was destroyed. There was also the townhouse on 10th Street in Greenwich Village that was blown up by a group known as the Weathermen. They were decidedly anti-establishment and made a habit of targeting and bombing federal buildings in downtown Manhattan. The group decided to use the few women members that they had to ferry the bombs to their respective targets and then plant the bombs in the women's bathroom, where it was thought there would not be much activity. As if it wasn't hard enough to find a working public toilet in New York City in the 1970s, the Weathermen decreased the surplus plumbing considerably and did not win the hearts and minds of any women within the city limits. On July 4th, 1976, my brothers and I were taken over to Wall Street to hear a reading of the Declaration of Independence. Later that day, as we headed back to the subway to go back to Brooklyn, we walked past the stock exchange. We stopped for a moment as my mother showed us the pockmarked walls of the buildings surrounding the exchange. They were, she said, scars left by a terrorist bomb in 1920 that took 37 lives and reportedly was set to protest the rise of unfettered capitalism. That day has stayed in my memory. In those few hours, I listened to some of the most inspiring and hope-filled thoughts, the declaring of a new country with all sorts of promise and hope, and then saw the scars of outrage that this country has endured throughout its history. I remember my parents' own opposition to the Vietnam War, and I also remember that despite that opposition, the American flag was flown from our house on every national holiday and every day of remembrance. It is that constant reminder that the world is a very large place. It can soar with promise and can be destroyed by hate. That protest is necessary, but that unrepentant rage is far too costly. It is hard through it all, going through to keep perspective and not lose yourself in pure emotion. But I remind myself that terrorism comes from within and without. And while causes may change and the names of groups are different, the anger, the rage and unrepentant violence remains the same. It is the image of that flag flying from my parents' home, despite disagreement with government policy and the social turbulence that seemed to surround us all, that gives me hope that we can still live up to all that promise of that declaration in 1776. And that is why when I look around this room, I am grateful, and I am reminded how many people are working every day to try to live up to those promises. I do not see an end to terrorism, but I also do not see an end to those who will dedicate their lives countering those forces. I thank you to all those individuals, both in this room and spread out throughout the world, living up to all the hope and promise that this country strives for every day. Thank you.
So I think the first thing I want to say is that was a great reminder that national security is a team sport, federal, state, and local. So Lieutenant Walsh, thank you. Also, I hope you also agree with me that, as Senator Warner said, that this was pretty uplifting stuff. And if you think so, if you think this is worthwhile, start thinking about who you want to nominate next year, okay? Because we will be coming to you asking for your thoughts, and we'll be coming to you guys asking for your thoughts, and we'll be trying to keep you engaged in things and asking you to help mentor others as we go forward. So thanks. We're almost done. I'm going to turn the podium over to Matt Scott from PwC for a couple of comments about our dessert reception out in the foyer. And also want to say to Matt, thank you. You met Jill Bruning earlier, who's the chair of our ICC, our Intelligence Champions Council. Matt is a past chairman of the Intelligence Champions Council, so thank you for all you've done.
Thanks, Chuck. Wow. So we at PwC, we're longtime believers in this event, the Achievement Awards, longtime investors in this event. And I think we just want to take this opportunity to applaud INSA for just its continued dedication to events like this and to the future of our intelligence community. So to the leaders, to the staff, to the volunteers that make it happen, thank you. Thank you. And now some remarks about dessert, right? It is now my pleasure to invite you all to a dessert reception in the atrium where we can collectively continue to celebrate the contributions, the achievements of this group of just awesome individuals. So please join us. This is the end of the formal program, but not the night by any means. So please, and then thank you. Congratulations all. All right.